When you think of the first great cities in Europe, what comes to mind? Athens, Rome, perhaps the Minoan palaces on Crete. These are the cornerstones of Western history, the cradles of democracy, philosophy, and empire. But what if I told you that thousands of years before Athens reached its golden age, thousands of years before Rome was even founded, deep in the heart of Eastern Europe, a forgotten people were building settlements larger than any city in contemporary Mesopotamia, settlements housing tens of thousands of inhabitants, Europe's first cities, and then, every 60 to 80 years, they deliberately burned them to the ground. This is the story of the Cucuteni-Trypillia culture, one of the most advanced, most enigmatic, and most tragically overlooked civilizations of the ancient world. Welcome to the Shard of History. Our story takes us back to Neolithic Europe, the age of the first farmers. Between roughly 5500 and 2750 BCE, across the fertile lands of modern-day Ukraine, Moldova, and Romania, a unique culture blossomed. We call them Cucuteni-Trypillia, named after two sites where their remains were first discovered. What makes them so extraordinary isn't just their age, but their scale. While most Neolithic Europeans lived in small, scattered villages, the Trypillians did something radically different. They began to congregate. Their settlements grew larger, and larger, and larger. By around 4000 BCE, they were constructing what archaeologists call mega-sites. These weren't just villages, they were proto-cities. Places like Talianki or Nebelivka in modern Ukraine covered areas up to 300 hectares. That's larger than the city of Uruk in Samaria at the same time. These settlements contained thousands of houses, meticulously arranged in concentric circles or ellipses around a central open space. Some estimates suggest these megasites housed populations between 10,000 and perhaps even 20,000 people. Think about that. Tens of thousands of people, living together, coordinating their lives, thousands of years before what we typically call urban civilization truly began in Europe. How did they organize themselves? They had no writing. We find no evidence of kings or ruling elite in the same way we see in Egypt or Mesopotamia. Yet these settlements show incredible planning. Houses were often 2 stories tall, built with sophisticated timber and clay techniques. They even had designated areas for pottery production, and perhaps communal buildings. This completely shatters the old view of Neolithic Europe as a primitive backwater, compared to the glittering cities of the Near East. The Trypillians were pioneers of large-scale communal living, and their material culture was just as stunning. Their pottery is considered some of the most beautiful and technically advanced of the entire Neolithic period. Intricate, swirling spiral and meander patterns painted in black, red, and white cover their elegant vessels. This wasn't just functional pottery. This was high art, suggesting a complex symbolic world. Alongside the pottery, archaeologists find thousands upon thousands of small clay figurines. Most depict female figures, often stylized, sometimes seated on thrones, their bodies covered in the same swirling patterns seen on the pots. Are these goddesses? Ancestor figures? Representations of fertility? We don't know for sure, but their sheer number suggests a society deeply preoccupied with ritual, symbolism, and perhaps a female-centric belief system. So, we have a picture of a sophisticated, organized, artistic society building Europe's first large urban centers. And then comes the greatest mystery of all. The burning archaeological excavations reveal a startling, almost unbelievable pattern. Virtually every Trypillian settlement, from the smallest hamlet to the largest megasite, was systematically destroyed by fire at the end of its life cycle. We're talking about thousands of settlements over nearly 3 millennia. This wasn't accidental fire. This wasn't destruction by invaders. The evidence points overwhelmingly to deliberate burning, orchestrated by the inhabitants themselves. Houses were emptied of valuable goods. Sometimes pottery and figurines were intentionally left inside, perhaps as offerings. Then, the entire settlement was set ablaze in an inferno so intense it vitrified the clay walls of the houses, leaving behind thick layers of burnt debris. And the timing is eerily consistent. Settlements seem to have been occupied for roughly 60 to 80 years, about 3 generations, before being ritually destroyed. Sometimes a new settlement was built right next to the old one, almost immediately. Why? Why would a society invest so much energy in building these massive, complex settlements, only to intentionally burn them down? This is where interpretation enters the realm of deep mystery. There are several theories. Theory 1. Practical reasons. Some argue the burning had mundane explanations. Perhaps it was a way to deal with pests, insects, rodents that infested the wattle and daub houses over decades. A controlled burn might have been the easiest form of demolition and site clearance before rebuilding. Or maybe it was related to soil exhaustion, forcing communities to move periodically, and burning the old site was a way of ritually closing it. But these practical theories don't fully explain the totality and systematic nature of the burning. Why burn everything? Why leave offerings inside? Theory 2. Ritual purification or renewal. This theory dives deeper into the Trypillian mindset. Perhaps the burning was a massive purification ritual, cleansing the settlement of accumulated negative energies, diseases, or social tensions after several generations. Fire, in many cultures, is seen as a transformative, purifying force. Theory 3. Symbolic death and rebirth. The house as a living entity. This is perhaps the most intriguing theory. What if the Trypillians viewed their houses, and by extension their entire settlement, not just as buildings, but as living entities with their own life cycles? Just as humans are born, live and die, perhaps the settlement itself had a lifespan. 3 generations, roughly. At the end of its life, it needed a proper funeral. The burning wasn't destruction. It was a ritual killing. A transition sending the spirit of the settlement back to the realm of ancestors or gods, perhaps to allow for the birth of a new settlement. The offerings left inside might have been grave goods for the dying house. This idea aligns with the cyclical pattern seen in their pottery designs and suggests a worldview deeply connected to cycles of life, death, and regeneration. We can't be certain which theory is correct. Without written records, the motives of the Cucuteni-Trypillia people remain locked in silence. But the act itself, this repeated, large-scale, ritualized destruction, tells us something profound about them. It speaks of a society deeply invested in cycles, perhaps less attached to permanent material structures than we are, and possessing a complex spiritual or cosmological understanding that dictated the very rhythm of their existence. And then, around 2750 BCE, after nearly 3,000 years, this vibrant culture begins to fade. The megasites are abandoned for good. The distinctive pottery styles change or disappear. What happened? The reasons are debated. Climate change likely played a role, making large-scale agriculture more difficult. There's also evidence of interaction and possibly conflict with nomadic groups moving in from the eastern steppes, the Yamnaya culture often associated with the spread of Indo-European languages. Perhaps their unique social structure, whatever it was, could no longer sustain itself under these pressures. The Cucuteni-Trypillia culture didn't vanish overnight, but it transformed, assimilated, and eventually dissolved, leaving behind the ghostly outlines of its burned megasites and those enigmatic, swirling pots. They were Europe's first city builders, thousands of years ahead of their time. They created art of breathtaking beauty and lived in communities of unprecedented scale. And they practiced a ritual involving fire and destruction on a scale almost unimaginable to us today. The Cucuteni-Trypillia are another shard of history, another echo from a past that constantly defies our neat timelines and simple explanations. They remind us that the path to civilization wasn't a single, straight line leading from Mesopotamia outwards, but a complex branching river with many sources, some now lost beneath the ashes. Thank you for subscribing to the Shard of History. We will keep searching for these forgotten flames.